Hello there, and welcome to Women Rise show here on Civic Space TV. My name is Lynn Komugisha. We're glad you're joining us, and we get to speak to ladies and women making a difference in our societies. How have they gotten here? What challenges have they encountered? And who are they really? What makes them tick for them to be who they are and for them to really have a story to share with us? Because we all know it's not easy out there. So, welcome. And today, I'm very glad and honored to have Her Excellency, and I'm yet to figure that out. Her Excellency, and that is Obalim Grace. Obalim, I'm very glad to have you today. Tell me, Her Excellency, where does that come from?
Thank you so much, Lynn, and thank you for having me on the Women Rise show today on Civic Space.
Yes,
And again, thank you to Civic Space. They have always provided space for us to
absolutely.
discuss.
Mm.
So, where does Her Excellency come from? I know where that is coming from, and I know who told you that.
Right.
Yes, but it's way back. Like you said, I'm Grace Obalim.
Yes.
I'm a clinical psychologist
Okay.
by profession,
Okay.
but that has been quite a long way coming
Yeah.
before we get here.
Mm-hmm.
And the excellency thing is in between there.
All right.
I come from Gulu.
Nice.
Yeah, very very proud actually.
Yeah.
Yes, from Gulu,
That's beautiful.
and did most of my early primary and high schools from Gulu.
From Gulu.
Yes, and then when I completed, I joined Nkumba University.
Before we get there,
Yes.
right now, currently,
Yes.
how do you describe yourself? Who really are you?
Right now, how do I describe myself? I would say right now, I'm um, I'm going out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going out there, and I see myself making steps towards where I want to be
Right.
and where I want to find myself as a lady.
Okay.
I remember I set myself some targets
Nice.
years back.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, where I am, I find that I am about 70% satisfied with where I am.
Wow, that's huge.
Based on the targets I set for myself at that early age.
Mm-hmm.
So I am on the way to where I want to be right now. Right now, I describe myself as a mother of two lovely daughters.
Wow, beautiful.
Two lovely, amazing daughters. A wife to a very lovely husband, very supportive. A sister to a very closely knitted family that are very loving and supportive. But most of all, I am a professional.
Yes.
I am a professional, and I keep telling people Uganda will not be able to contend with me in my professional growth.
That's nice.
I'm a professional in the field of mental health that is upcoming, greatly right now building and focusing at my advocacy and coordination and collaboration in the field of mental health to strengthen that and support mostly national focus and national coordination.
Wow,
Yes.
wow. That's really beautiful. And exactly the space that most people are currently involves a lot of mental health challenges.
Yes.
And it's exciting having you indeed. So you can follow our conversations on social media at Civic Space TV on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, most importantly, because this is where you will definitely watch us and find more conversations. Now, like I said, it is the Women Rights Show, and with me is Obalim Grace, and she is a clinical psychologist. Now, Obalim already was telling us about her earlier childhood. So tell me a little bit. How was it growing up in Gulu, that beautiful city?
Yeah, one of my happiest moments always is if I'm driving to Gulu. When I decide I'm like, I'm going home, I get so excited because it brings so much memories. But there are mixed memories of both very beautiful memories and not very beautiful.
Yes.
But the not very beautiful one, I love them because they're the one that built me to where I am today. So growing up in Gulu was Let me say that most of my early years of my life was more like taken up by the war, the LRA war. So living within that, it's living in between home, school, and night commuting, sleeping in the hospital, the hospital for safety.
Yes.
And then I lived in a family that was so big. I
Uh-huh.
am a last born
Wow.
from a family of 9.
Wow.
But the family of 9, all the 9, my direct siblings were not there. They were already out, taken by relatives, and most of them were here in Kampala to ensure that they study and they grow. But I had cousins. My mother picked, we like almost 21 children under the same roof, under the care of my mom. I would say I was partially raised by a single mother, partially because my dad is not late, but not very present father. Was not very present. But my mom, that woman, she did an amazing job.
Bless her.
So it was mostly her present to raise me up as a child. So my childhood is characterized by focusing more at school, go to school. And then, we had a routine of school, come back by about 4:35. You're preparing to night commit to go to the hospital to sleep.
For safety.
For safety. And that is if it's on a day where there's been no looting, you've not had gunshots to come around. So that's what you do. But on days that there are gunshots, you keep around running up and down.
Yeah.
So when I completed my...
But before you go to completion of maybe high school or whatever, I'm looking at that situation of growing in a war-torn area. How does it affect your studies?
Okay. I remember one day, I had my auntie. She was a nursery school teacher in the school where I was going. I was in P5, and we're in class. And I went to a Catholic school, and there's a church within the Catholic school, and we believed that the rebels respected God and they wouldn't break through churches, which is true. So we were in class. It was around 10 in the morning, and we see teachers coming. They had already taught us of signs. They would show us signs for you to know whether the rebels are coming, or they're about to come, or the situation is really not good.
Yeah.
So we saw teachers coming. When they come with their hands in the mouth like this, is like, so you don't make noise.
Any noise.
Just get up quietly, find your way where we are directing you. So we were so many with my cousins in that school. Wow, so many. And my auntie would always make sure that she grabs all of us. So I see her coming, running very fast to enter our class. And I stood up. And then she's like, let us get out. So as we were walking, getting out of the class, we had a very big bomb thrown not very far from behind the school. So the rebels were trying to attack another village that is not very far from the school. Oh my goodness. The pupils, everybody just scattered, shouting. Others started running to go home. Those others ran to the church because they'd always told us that as long as you're near a church, just run and enter church. Run and enter church. And I remember as we were running towards the church, one of my youngest cousins fell and broke her leg.
Oh dear.
And my auntie was dragging all of us. Now, that is one vivid experience that I can see that as a child. And then, our classroom was built in the way that the windows were not completed. They left the window open for
emergency.
Yes, emergency, for you to flee in case of if the rebels just come quietly, because there are times that they would just come in quietly, unannounced, and without making noise or without gunshots, and then you just see them, they're there standing. I personally didn't see them physically, like confront them, but got involved in so many scuffles of running, escaping from them. So you sit in a class with an open window, and the window has been intentionally left open for safety, for you to flee, just in case.
Yes.
Our morning lessons always started at 10, not in the morning, because you're not allowed to leave the hospital where you're sleeping
before
7:30, because they have to make sure it is safe.
Yes.
So very many people getting out of one gate, by the time you leave the hospital, get home. So our morning classes always started at 10 in the morning.
Absolutely.
And ended by 3.
Wow.
That
So
is on
you
a
make
very good
time.
day. Yes, that's on a very good day. Ended by 3, so that children are able to walk early enough to go back to home and prepare, and by 5 the night commute.
Yes.
So I think
How did that affect your school, and did you continue in that same environment for your high school?
no, I at least when I struggled through that up to P7, I completed my primary school from there. And I was going to say that I think I was a brilliant student. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
Because given all this, I don't remember me repeating a class.
That's great.
And I really, if I look through my report cards, I see that I was always at least among the first 20s, not going below, above 20. So when I completed high school, when I completed primary, sorry, I looked really so forward to joining high school in Kampala, because by then I had siblings that at least were here in Kampala and they were now working, and so I looked so much forward to joining high school in Kampala, but unfortunately I had to join my senior one still in Gulu.
Okay.
With the promise from my brother, like, we will move you to Kampala, just start as a stepping stone and then we'll move you to Kampala. Now, senior one was even worse, because now you're grown up.
Yes, you understand the happenings.
Understand the happenings. The fears is so high.
Yes.
And you're a girl, and you know that you're a target with everything that will happen to you when they get you. So and then with school fees struggling, I didn't have like finances coming through just really for school fees. Me and my mom had to brew alcohol, local alcohol, prepare it so that we are able to get school fees. So a lot of challenges, until when my brother realized that my senior one education was not really going so well. And then when senior 2 came, he moved me. Brought me to Kampala to study. I joined
so it was a struggle all through. But when you look back now,
yes,
you're like, wow, that was a struggle.
Actually, when I look through right now, and I'm like, I actually say, Grace, you're strong.
Indeed.
Because I am like, it was not easy.
Absolutely.
Because if I look back and I see it's so difficult for me right now to point at my old girls, my OGs and OBs from the primary. Others are led. Others, when you see them, you can't even really tell that these were my OGs. When you tell them, they laugh at you and they're like, I don't say that, you're embarrassing me.
Oh dear.
Because of the difference now. Yes, the difference now among us.
Yes.
So I would say, yeah, it was really difficult. And I think something that really marked it all was with all the difficulties running through the primary and coming to senior 1, when I joined senior 2, my brother brought me here to Kampala and took me to a school in Mukono. Oh, that's another experience. Took me to a school in Mukono. At least I'd say that I knew basic English. I would communicate. I knew how to read and write, so that was okay. But the challenge came in where you sit in class and 60% of the lessons are in Uganda.
Oh no.
Yes. And I'm like, it felt like Chinese.
I can imagine.
And you know, I had no idea, completely nothing in regards to Uganda. And
yeah, that is a side. Apart from you know, you're in Kampala, you have a cultural shock of sorts. Now you have a classroom shock.
it was a lot, and you know, I brought that up because it took me back to my environment in Gulu. Because I kept wishing for that environment. It's hostile, it was difficult, but I kept feeling like, I think the other side was better.
Was better because you understood.
Yes, because I understood, and I felt like I was the brilliant student. So I come here and, my first test that I did, I got 0-0.
What?
And it was a Luganda paper.
Wow.
And when I told these people, I don't know Luganda, I can't do anything, they're like, it's compulsory. The director of studies told me you have to do all exams, all the tests. It was a 0-0. I had never seen 0-0.
In your life?
In my life. And I'm like,
that must have been a setback.
I was like, okay, I can't do this. So I told myself, I can't wait for holidays so that I go back to Gulu. And I was living with my brother. He was not married by then. So it was just me and him in the house and the houseboy. So when I got holidays, I requested to go to Gulu to see mom. Being the last born, I pulled the last born card. I miss mommy, I want to go. Then it's like, okay, go. Now, that going back to Gulu set a precedent for my life.
Okay.
Because I went back for that holidays, met up with my old friends, and I'm like, I'm from Kampala and school.
That feel.
Yeah. But also I was like, now I'm back home. I'm within people that my people that know me. At least by then the war had subsidized a little bit. It was not as really, really very strong as it was. But we would still move from home and go sleep at the hospital.
Yes.
To make sure that you're not taken at night. So the life of the hospital at night, when you're inside there, unsupervised by parents. So the grouping, you're in groups, adolescent with all the excitement. So you're sitting, you're interacting. By the time I left Gulu, came back to Kampala, I didn't know. I went back to school. I contested to be the assistant head girl.
In that particular school where you failed? In that
particular school where I failed.
Wow.
So I teamed up with some girls who are from northern Uganda and the Langese.
Yes.
So we drew my posters. We just drew it. We didn't have money, so we drew
with a pen.
We drew it with a pen, and there was one particular one. She was called Janet. That one was so noisy and so aggressive.
Yeah.
She was in senior 3 and I was in senior 2. So we campaigned very strong, and I beat up the senior 3 girl.
No.
And I became the assistant head girl of the school. Then I'm like, this is making some sense.
Yes.
Now they started giving a mark. They started saying, it's not a good word, but it's okay. They started saying the Badokoli girls.
Yeah. It's really common around schools.
Yes. So they started saying the Badokoli girls. I even remember one of the teachers stood in assembly and said, so the Mudokoli girl won. And I'm like, it's okay. It's a tag. It's an attachment. It's fine. So now, as I'm starting to enjoy this, they bring in routine checkup for girls.
Okay.
Now, the bomb comes in there. So when they come in for the routine checkup for girls, I was 15 years. I'd been at school for 2 months and I'd not experienced my period.
Oops. And
I was like, maybe it's okay. I talked to the nurse at school. She's like, in the first few years when you just start, it's okay. They're off and on. So I'm like, okay, fine. So when they came for the routine check, I speak to the nurse that came from out. She's like, are you not pregnant?
I know, right?
I told her, what 15? Do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean I'm pregnant? She's like, you might, but let's first check.
Okay.
So we go through pregnancy tests, and she's like, you are pregnant. Then I'm like, but how? How am I pregnant? She looked at me in shock, and she's like, you don't know how you're pregnant? I told her, I can't be.
Exactly.
I really can't be pregnant. She's like, okay, let's do a confirmatory test. I'll put you all among the girls that we need to do a confirmatory test. So when they did a confirmatory test, they confirmed I was 3 months pregnant. Yes.
You had no idea?
I had no idea.
Wow.
No idea at all.
Wow.
So I'm like, wait, how am I even pregnant? So I called they called home. And they called my elder sister, you need to come to school to pick Grace. That what's the issue that comes? So she came. She's my friend up to now. So when she comes, and I'm like, but Sophie, how can I be pregnant? How? She looked at me with pain in her eyes.
I know.
So much pain, and I saw her tears dropping.
The innocence, because with that question.
Yes.
Yes.
I saw tears. She literally started crying and came and hugged me.
Oh, no.
And then she said, we'll figure this out when we get home. But your brother is going to kill you.
I can't imagine.
And I told her, yeah. So as we were coming home, it was a total silence. The driver drove all through home. My sister was just seated, quiet. And I kept thinking, so I decided to go back and start thinking, how did I get pregnant?
I'm also still wondering,
So
how did you get pregnant?
So I started going back, and I remembered one day when we were in the hospital and, sleeping at night, and you're having a boyfriend and you're interacting. I'm like, but it was just a moment. How does it end up?
And you hadn't received your periods, your very first period.
Yes. And I'm like, how? How? Because okay, in my mind up to now, I tell people I can't even relate that I had sex that led to getting pregnant.
Exactly.
But I was here pregnant. So I was like, so when I explained to my sister, my elder sister, she's staff, the one that is older than Sophie. So she came and she's like, now you're going to tell me. You only get pregnant when you've had sexual intercourse with a man. I said, of course I know.
Yes.
But I don't think I did. She's like, you don't think you did, or you did? So I started explaining to them. Then they were like, yeah, that was sexual intercourse, and it's the reason why you're pregnant. So they're like, your brother is going to kill us. I come from a Christian family. So they all say, regardless, children are a blessing.
Absolutely.
We just need to check with the doctors if biologically you can, with your body and your age, you can be able to continue, carry the pregnancy and give birth.
To term, yeah.
And then when my brother had...
He was so heartbroken, I think.
I have never seen him in that pain. He was so heartbroken. He told me, he said, Grace, no. He actually stood and screamed so loud and said, Grace, no.
I know.
And then he walked away. And then he told my sister, I don't want to set my eyes on her. Get her out of my house. Because if I see her, the choice of what I'm going to recommend is not the best. So now my sisters, I stayed in the house for 2 weeks, but the 2 weeks I would keep in the room.
Yes.
If he's at home, you don't get out of the room. As they were planning. So we prepared, and my sister, still Sophie, I traveled with her, went to Gulu. The guy was much older. So with my naivety, I told them everything easily.
Of course.
When I reached to Gulu, I found my brother who is there. He asked me, I told him everything. I don't know what was going to happen. So everything I told him, he picked it and went with it to police. So opened up a case of defilement. And this guy overheard. He heard that he's going to be looked, because he was much older. He's about 19. He was already in senior 5 at Laibi College, one of the schools there. And I was this young girl. So he took off. He fled. He disappeared. So police tried to look for him, but it never came through. But my mom was like, it's okay, you'll be fine. So I stayed with my mom. Up to now, the only experience I remember in that was when my brother says, I don't want to set my eyes on her. And that also marked the stop for my school fees coming.
Exactly. Because how do you go back to school? Do you actually go back to school?
Yes.
What happens next?
Yes. So baby comes, and thank God, no more delivery. Surprisingly.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Surprisingly, I keep giving a thumb up to that doctor. He's called Olafred. He's the one who delivered my baby. He is like, and the baby came safely.
Beautiful.
A month, 2 months later, my mom took her away from me and told me, now start focusing at how you can start brewing alcohol.
Pick yourself up.
Yes, she told me, focus at brewing alcohol, save money, and go back to school. That's what she said. Your brother, I've talked to him, and he has said, no, he's not taking you back at school. I am like, okay. So I started focusing at brewing alcohol. So one day I was seated. There was always this program that they call Dukchen Padio. It's a program of like, come back home. It's a program of encouraging the child soldiers
to come
who are in
back
the bush
home.
to come back home and let them. So in between that program, I used to love listening to it. So in between that program, I had an advert. An NGO inviting students, orphans who would like to study, to apply for scholarship.
Right.
So that they're taken back at school. But the key word there was like orphans. I told myself, I said, I'm not an orphan, but I'm partially an orphan. Because my parents are unable to put me at school. The one person who can put me at school is so much annoyed with me, does not even want to set eyes on me,
you, yeah.
and he has said no school fees. I told myself I'm going to give it a shot. So I walk from our home in Lacho to town, Gulu town. So I reached there, I reached the gate of that NGO. It was massive. Over 500 to 1,000 students packed at the gate. And they were just telling us, just throw your application, throw it over the gate, throw it. I stayed there. I went there by 8 in the morning. I told myself I'm not throwing it. I want to earn it over.
Yes.
Because at least that will give me some comfort. I stayed up to 4:30
p.m.
And I got the chance to, and then the askari was like, but everybody has gone. They said you threw it. I told him, no, I want to earn it over. And when I said, no, I want to earn it over, one of the staff of the NGO heard that. And I think that touched him. He walked to me and said, what do you want? My first word was, I'm a mother. My daughter is currently 6-month-old, but I want to go back to school, and I want to be paid to go back to school, and I will study. He looked at me. Then he said, give me your application. I handed it over to my left. And that's what set up my life.
Wow.
1 week later, they traced us. They went on radio and read our names.
Yes.
These students, please come back to us, to office. I came back. I had the joy I had. When I came back, they told us, you have made it in the first stage. We want to go to your home to really ensure that you are an orphan.
Yes.
I told them, me, I'm not an orphan. I actually told them openly, I said, I am not an orphan. But I take myself as a partial orphan because my father is not a vet. He's not been present in my life for all my childhood that I grew up. And right now, I destroyed my opportunity to study when I got pregnant, and my brother has refused to pay me at school. But I really want to study. So my English, I think, interested
them.
The white man who was sponsoring students. And he said, let's go visit their home. So when they came and saw home, the guy was like, it's okay. So he cleared me off. And that was it.
Wow.
In 2007, I got awarded scholarship by Invisible Children. The one day we were called Invisible Children. So they put condition. You should perform, maintain excellent performance, maintain high level of discipline, and we will be coming to visit the school all the time. And everything else I can tell you has been history.
Absolutely.
Because when they took me back at school in 2007, I never disappointed in excellent performance.
Yeah.
I maintained that scholarship up to my first degree at university.
Wow.
Yes.
So where did you have your first degree?
I had my first degree at Nkumba University.
Nkumba, okay.
So they paid me all through, O-level and A-level. And then in my A-level vacation, they took me to America to do fundraising.
Yes.
For more school fees for more girls to go to school, which was a privilege.
Yes.
I came back, and then they took me for degree. I went back. Wow. I went and did a degree in guidance and counseling.
Why guidance and counseling? Because there are millions of courses you could have taken. I mean, something that would have not reminded you of where you are coming from.
Yes.
Why that?
When I was a child, I watched I had an aunt also who was a nun. And I had one of my relatives who had HIV.
Okay.
And at that time, it was still the difficult kind of HIV where you really struggle. So I saw my auntie, who is a nun, provide counseling to my auntie and even support the different other people within the community.
Yes.
She would come and sit with them and talk with them, and I would see the joy.
And the change.
The change that I would see. I would see every time the sister come to speak to them, they're expectant. And when she's living there happy, you see a bit of life in them and they have changed. So I told myself, being a counselor is a very good profession because it gives life and hope back to people and makes people who are sad become happy. That's what I touched to my head. So when I completed Senior 6, I had the choice to go do law. I had the choice to go do journalism because I performed well. And when the organization asked me, I told them, I'm going to do guidance and counseling.
Did they not talk you out of it?
They tried. And at this time, my brother now came back.
Oh.
He now came back to advise. And they now became interested.
Yes.
So they were like, you know, law is a better course. You could go and do law.
Yeah, it pays better.
You're eloquent, you're outspoken, you have a strong character. You will be a very good lawyer. I smile and I said, no, I want to do guidance and counseling. If I can't do guidance and counseling, then I want to do journalism. Because of two things. One, I still want to use this profession of mine to influence life.
Yes.
And contribute and support people. I don't want to go and release people from jail.
Nice.
I want to support those ones that don't have support at all by talking to them, listening to them, and giving them information that they don't know. My sister was like, oh, Grace, come on, guidance and counseling. One of my brothers told me and said, you join the convent and become a nun. Because for us here in Uganda, we don't know what guidance and counseling is.
Yes, because at that time, if I remember correctly, it was one of those very
and
serious
cause.
And serious and common.
Actually, one of my brothers said it's a very unserious cause.
Like, I mean, why are you even going with that cause?
You have pulled yourself up. Why are you being unserious with your life? I told him, no, I want to do psychology, guidance and counseling. So one of my cousin brother goes on and say, you leave him, leave her. He's one of those people that supports and nurtures. He says, you leave her. She seems to be having passion towards it.
So let her be.
Let her be. She will make it through. Grace is determined. Those were his words. Those were what he said. So they were like, okay, my mentor from the organization was like, Grace, you have a chance to go for better courses.
I know.
Why would you? I told him, I watched my auntie give life and restore hope back in these people. And that's what I want to do. Even if it means I'll go back to work in the community from door to speaking to them, listening to people's problem, and all they need is, let me do this. Then it's like, okay, fine. I know when you finish this degree, you're going to go back and do another degree in either law or journalism. I told him it's okay. So that's how I went.
While you go back to school, your little girl.
Yes.
How do you balance the two? How does that go for you?
My mom decided to take her off 100%.
Right.
Even when I go and I try to pull myself close to the girl and be close to her, she would say no. So at 2 months, introduced my girl to taking porridge.
Yeah, poor thing.
Started feeding her. So when the girl got to about 4 or 5 months, she didn't want to breastfeed. And then she had built attachment with my mom.
Yes.
Me and her were not so close because mom intentionally ensured that the child was always with her.
Because she wanted you to pick up
my life and get back.
Yes.
She kept telling me, it's not the end.
It is.
You can still make it. For her, she kept saying, continue bring your alcohol and save money.
That's good.
You'll go back to school.
Absolutely.
Give this one to me. This is my last one. So Fortunate, my daughter is called Fortunate. I named her Fortunate. So mommy took her up and she just kept staying with her. So as I went back to school, her and mommy had their life.
Yes.
They started their life. When she started joining nursery, it's mommy. Actually, it was until when she was about 8, 9, that she fully realized and took me in as her biological mother.
Wow.
There was always mommy who is her mom, my mother.
I know that.
And a mama who is there to support.
Nice. Reminds me of myself at some point.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. Yeah. And that's such a journey that, I mean, when you look back, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That was great. So you study guidance and counseling and you graduate.
Yes.
What was your early work experience like, and how were you doing it with the baby, with all the issues, especially because the course was not very common?
Yes. So I go to Nkumba and we are 3 in the class.
Oh.
And the 3 of us, only 2 of us are for degree. The other one is for a diploma. So like, it's okay. Me, I'm like, this is what I want. And the other girl also, she had the heart for it. So we go through, and that's how the title of Her Excellency comes in. So while I was in Nkumba, I decided to get involved into student leadership.
Right.
So I become the student representative, School of Education and Humanity, where I was. Then from there, I contest to become the speaker in parliament of the university. And then they played some politics because the guild president wanted me to be his vice. It's like, so I lose that, then now I get appointed the vice president. So I become the guild vice president of the university. So that opened me up. I started interacting. And so when I graduated, before I graduated in my third year, I applied at, that was my first employment. I applied at SOS Children's Village in Entebbe.
Entebbe, yes.
I applied to volunteer. So they accepted. The village director, by then, he was an Acholi man. He told me, said, we are not going to pay you any money, but we can support with transport to move you through. I told him it's okay. And I told him, I want to support the children within the village. I want to. So I went in as a psychosocial counselor for the children of SOS Village. So I stayed there for about 6 months, volunteering, no pay. They would give me, was it 42,000?
Transport, maybe lunch?
Yes, they started with 42,000. They would give me lunch from the village. I would eat from there. They would give me lunch. So they started with giving me 42,000. At the time I was leaving, they were giving me 84.
Wow.
84,000.
Meaning you were putting in good work.
Yes. The time I was leaving, it was now telling me, we are looking into now recruiting you as a staff. To employ you now as a staff. But as they were trying to give me to employ me as a staff, I'd now gotten a job to work as office administrator for a radio station that is based in northern Uganda in Pade. It's called Luo FM. But they had established an office here in Kampala.
So they needed a liaison.
Yes, they needed an administrator to manage the office, to do marketing, work with the marketing team. So I was given that job as the office administrator.
Why did you pick that? Because you had the opportunity at SOS.
To continue with my profession. Yes. Now, Sophie, my sister, works with one of the directors of the radio station. So she literally created the position.
Intentionally.
Intentionally created the position to give me a job. So she's like, we did this for you, so come in. So when the opportunity came, I had an office in Ntinda. So, and I had a team of 12 marketeers.
That's nice.
That I would manage, like pay their stipend, follow up on the different contracts that they've signed. So my first official salary, I think I'm among the few lucky Ugandans. My first official salary gross was 500,000.
No. Yes, indeed. You're among the few Ugandans.
Yes.
What?
So they offered to pay me 500,000. Sophie actually negotiated the salary also.
That's lovely, having big sisters.
Yes. So my first salary was 500,000. Although I take the 42,000 as my first salary. Yes, at SOS. So I worked with them for about a year. There, my brother now came back fully. He started telling me, I want you to go for masters.
Now, well, he came at least with a nice
story. He came up with he said, first, when I graduated, I missed first class with 1 point. And he's like, you would have gotten a first class. And the university kept saying, student leadership. So he planned me a graduation party.
Wow.
And invited his friends, and he brought my parents from Gulu. And so me and Sophie were like, oh, he is back.
Yeah.
So on my graduation party, he said, I am pledging to make sure you get a master's degree and a PhD.
Wow.
So you need to go back to school.
Wow.
Don't look for a job. Start looking for a university
for your
to go back for your master's. And preferably, please don't choose a university in Uganda. Those were his statements. So as I was working as an administrator, I decided to apply at the University of Nairobi. During my degree, my lecturer mentored me and took me through and gave me various master's courses that I could do. So there was counseling psychologist, there was clinical psychologist. So when he explained to me, clinical psychology is abnormal psychology. It comes with the understanding of the brain and how it affects the entire human being.
Right.
So I opted for that. So I applied for my master's degree at the University of Nairobi. And I got admitted. So when I got the admission, I took it to him. I said, I've been admitted. He said, perfect. When do you want to go? I'll get your air tickets. I'll get for your accommodation. I'll pay your master's. And I'm like,
thank you, God.
Yeah, thank you. So I had to leave that job as an administrator. I went to university. I went to Nairobi.
And you were earning well.
Yes, 500,000. Yes, I was. And it was supporting with my daughter's education at school because
and mom's
and
maintenance.
mom's maintenance. Yes, so I left and went to Nairobi as a student. So I joined my master's degree, which was always in the evening, and I sit during the daytime. I have to just sit in my room and watch movies from my laptop. Nairobi was another experience.
Of course.
I would proudly say that Nairobi partially, strongly contributed to building me into who I see myself right now, because there was a lot of challenge. Nairobi is very fast, it's very shrewd, it's very expensive.
Yes.
Okay, it's you and God, not anyone. It's not like Ugandans. Ugandans, we are very empathetic.
And we're very available.
We are very available, we are very embracing, and we support.
Yes.
Nairobi, they will pour food while you're sleeping hungry, and they know. But they'll pour it, they'll pick it from the cooking pot, and they'll pour it in the trash can. They'll look at you, and they'll turn their face.
Wow. A Ugandan won't do that.
So it taught me to be self-driven. It taught me to be forward-headed, and it taught me to work so hard for myself.
Right.
So in my first year of my master's degree in Nairobi, after first 6 months, I asked my lecturer to get for me a place of internship.
Right.
So he got for me a private mental health-based hospital in Nairobi that we're looking to recruit an intern. So I joined that hospital. I was an intern for 3 months. After 3 months, they gave me a locum. They have a lot of what they call locum, like locum position.
Yes.
At least they are paid. So I worked as a locum for 6 months. And then they took me on as the hospital psychologist.
No.
Yes.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Yes. So they took me on.
But anyway, you were brilliant.
Yes, they took me on as the hospital psychologist.
Yes.
And that was in my final year of my master's degree also. So I was studying and working. So life became better. And they were not paying me like bad. They were paying well. I was getting about $700. 70,000 Kenyan shilling.
Yes.
So that's a lot. I was a millionaire when I come to Uganda. So I was like, so when I was in Nairobi, I told myself, I need to be different. Okay. So one of the things that I focused at Nairobi was I set a standard for myself that everything I do, I want to do it with perfection and be good. So that gave me opportunity to work. The hospital got me a working permit, and I was fully employed in Nairobi with benefits.
Wow.
So until 2019.
Just yesterday.
Yes. When I was headhunted by an NGO here in Uganda. It's called TPO Uganda. Now that's where I work.
That's where you currently work.
That's where I currently work.
As what?
As the advisor.
Okay.
So yeah, I am an advisor at my age. Yes.
Wow.
I keep telling people, yes.
Yes. But,
yeah,
but when you look at your journey, and then clearly,
yes,
I think it's worth it.
Yes. So they had hunted me, brought me in as a manager, as the mental health manager. So as the manager, at the time that I came in, by then the country director was also at the time of transition. So part of his transition, he introduced me to the field, the national field of mental health in Uganda, and then the global field.
Yes.
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 So he brought me in there as part of his transition to represent the organization in that field. So he realized that I'm good at my work. My expertise are on my fingertips. Then I love advocacy. I'm good. So he put me there. So in 2019, he introduced me to a group of country directors who are running humanitarian-based organizations in Uganda, and said, work with them and make sure you guys set up a national coordination platform.
Wow.
And these country directors open up and they embraced me because he told them and said, she is going to represent TPO in this process of setting up. So we started and set up a national mental health working group.
That's beautiful.
First was to focus at humanitarian, the refugee setting.
Yes.
So in 2019, it focused at the refugee setting. In 2020, we expanded it.
Then COVID happened.
Now it became a national. Now COVID did it good.
Yes.
It became a national platform. Ministry of Health, through the Division of Mental Health, now reached out. We were now the coordinating platform that had all contacts of all the partners that do mental health in Uganda. So they reached out. So by then I was the chairperson of the national working group. So we started coordinating and working closely with Ministry of Health. So as I speak right now, it's one of the strongest network for mental health in Uganda that is creating collaboration and coordination. If you saw about 3 weeks ago, there was a mental health camp at Parliament.
Yes.
It is that national working group.
Wow.
I'm the national coordinator. So we coordinated with Parliament and they accepted that we put a mental health camp. From the mental health camp, we put a national mental health conference.
Yes.
That was graced by the Prime Minister.
Yes, I think not so long ago. So.
Yes, not so long ago, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So as I get into the closing, my contribution to the society,
but as you coordinate all those things,
yes,
how is your work impacting your people around you,
yes,
your society, the environment, even the people you're charged to advise?
Yes. So I came in that organization as a manager, and I was tasked to set up a structure. From a manager, I became a supervisor. Then from a supervisor in 2021, I got promoted to advisor. So I'm tasked with the responsibility to ensure quality standard, mentorship of the professionals, clinical psychologists, psychiatric clinical officers, but setting up community-based program. Now that's where I want to come in. I advise a department that runs a community-based mental health program that looks at direct mental health treatment, mentorship, information sharing, and building the capacity of the community structures, of the VHTs, the community counselors.
That's really huge.
Yes, so I focus a lot. We are in about 43 districts, TPO Uganda.
Almost close to the entire country.
Yes. Yeah. So I do that a lot. That is one. Two, I want to say that being a two-time chairperson of the National Working Group, I pulled a lot of strings in ensuring that we have a coordinating platform for the partners in Uganda. And that has brought a very big step in regards to advocacy for mental health in this country. Including ensuring that the mental health policy for Uganda mental health policy came out in 2019.
Yes.
It was part of the advocacy that we brought under that platform.
Wow. That's good.
I do mentorship. I do professional mentorship for the young professionals that are coming up in the field of mental health. I do a lot of that. I support counselors, I support psychologists, and sometimes clinical psychologists who are growing up. I do a lot of mentorship in the field. I do that. I also do program setup, mental health, mainstreaming. Like if you want to bring mental health services into your program, into your activities, I also do that setup. But most importantly right now, what I'm focusing at is pulling mental health into the space it requires in Uganda.
Where it's supposed to be. Well, I can attest there's some great improvement.
Yes, so we do a lot of lobby meetings. I right now do a lot of lobby meetings with the different stakeholders. We have very good working relationship with the Parliamentary Forum on Mental Health, with Minister of Health and Minister of Gender. So it's really, really creating a very big impact. And that's why I told you I see myself that at 70, I'm at 70%
of what your targets were.
I must say this. I told myself that before I make 30 years, I want to reach WHO headquarters.
Wow.
And when I made 30 years, that was when I was invited by WHO as a consulting expert on mental health to go for a meeting for 1 week in Geneva.
That's lovely.
And that was like, right now I am 32 and I'm married, happily married, with an amazing husband, 2 beautiful daughters, 5 months and 15 years. And I have a stable family, I have a stable job. So I would say, yeah.
Yes.
With all the difficulties.
We have risen, and you can tell that she has risen through it all, and she is here. And now this, as we wind up, in fact, Grace, a very exciting story that you've shared with us. I wonder, what advice, how would you tell the young girls who look up to you, your 15-year-old daughter, what would you want her to know, right? And those who may be looking at guidance and counseling and saying, no way, I'm not going there. Or those who are looking at mental health and saying, whatever, those ones have problems.
Yeah.
Yes. What advice?
Okay. I'm going to start with, it's okay to make mistakes.
Right.
Mistakes build us. That's what I normally tell people. What is most important is that learn from it. Pick the lessons when you've learned, and then let it choose to define how you are going to work with the lessons you've picked.
Absolutely.
Because that will determine what happens tomorrow. But if you stay in the mistake, or if you don't learn from it, you will keep up making several mistakes. So what I would tell the young girls out there is understand yourself. Lynn, I was pregnant and I didn't know.
And you had no clue.
Yeah. So understand yourself. Try to be intentional in having some level of self-knowledge and self-awareness.
Yes.
So that even when you're making decisions, however naive or young the decisions are, you're making it from a point of knowledge. You at least know something. Keep your focus to the goal. Don't look at the mistakes, the challenges that are down here. I think what brought me here is my determination.
That girl who moved to that gate and said, I want to hand it over.
Yes. That determination.
That is the girl.
Is keep to that. And then in the field of work, don't look at the one that they bring you down.
Yeah.
Then that's a story for another day. Because the field of mental health, you meet the ones that land on job, the ones that call themselves that they know, and then the ones with lived experience, and they now also call themselves expert. They're all everywhere. So it's not easy. And then being a woman, being a lady, and then the men look at, several people look at me when they see me physically, they're like, are you sure you're Grace Obalim?
Yes.
We're expecting a very big, mature old lady. And I'm like, yeah, it's me.
I know.
It's me. And the statement comes and the men are like, but
there's a question I was supposed to have asked, and it just hit me right now that you mention it. Most people attach mental health advocacy to having gone through a mental breakdown of sorts, if I could borrow the word. Would you say it had a way? Do you believe that? Or what would you tell these people?
Someone told me and said, the person who called themselves an advocate is a person with no skills. Because anybody can be an advocate. And I was like,
no.
Wow, ouch, that's so hard. Because it was like, anybody can be an advocate. I told him, no. Advocacy has a nitty-gritty that comes with.
Yes.
It comes with you're looking at a target. You have something that you want to achieve. Lynn, if you've gone through an experience of having a mental breakdown or living through one or two of the mental health disorder, you will want to support another person.
That's true.
Who is going through it, or you will want to ensure that another person does not experience the worst or does not go through what you've gone through.
Yeah.
And I think that's what brings so many people who have had the breakdown or who are on treatment calling themselves mental health advocates. Because they have lived the experience.
They would want to change.
They would want to change the status quo. They would want to see that if Lynn is going to be going through treatment for depression, let her know that the worst days
A, B, C, D
are not permanent.
Yes.
It improves. It gets better.
Yeah.
It looks so terrible today, so difficult, but tomorrow or the next hour is better. So I think that's why I encourage the ones with lived experience to do advocacy.
Absolutely.
Because they do it from a point of
knowledge.
They encourage you. You relate to them more than me, who is an expert.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned it. And I'll just look at you and listen to you. And I say, okay, from what you've told me, this is the challenge. This is how we can manage with different assessments. I can be able to support you.
Absolutely.
But still, advocacy has to come with a goal. You need to have
Yeah.
a target,
Mm-hmm.
set the goal, and keep evaluating if you're moving towards that.
Wow.
And don't get diverted.
Wow.
Yes.
Grace, your story has been, I mean, I cannot not explain how many chills I got along this conversation. And so as your final word as we call it a day on this conversation.
Yeah. My final word is that it's never late.
Mm-hmm.
I was at home for 1 year. 9 months of pregnancy, and I was at home for a year. But here I am 32. I am advisor in the organization where I work. I have made very good thrives in my life. So it's never late. Pick up the pieces and put it together.
Absolutely.
And don't count the 1 year.
Yes.
Look at the many years ahead.
Pick up the pieces. Where do these pieces go? They can go here.
Exactly.
Focus on that.
Exactly.
Very beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Her Excellency. We finally got to know where Her Excellency comes from. And I must say, it was an honor. It was a beautiful conversation. And knowing that people out there right now, we are all focused on most people focused on mental health. And I'm glad that you're part of this conversation, that a national conversation on mental health. And so if you're out there, you know what to do. It's never too late. Pick those pieces up, look at them. If they make sense to you, focus on them. Where are they going? You will find yourself there before you know it. So don't give up on it.
No.
It was an honor indeed, and thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you again next time on the same show, Women Rise show here on Civic Space TV. My name is Lynn Komugisha. Bye-bye.